My name is Alexander Grant and I'm 63 years old now. This story takes place 11 years ago when I was 52 and learning one of the most important lessons of my life from the most unexpected teacher, a homeless child who had nothing but gave everything. I'd built my fortune in technology, founding a software company in my 20s that eventually went public and made me wealthier than I'd ever imagined possible. By my early 50s, I was a billionaire several times over with all the trappings that came with it. The penthouse, the cars, the private schools for my daughter, the exclusive clubs and restaurants. My daughter Charlotte was 7 years old then. After my wife died giving birth to her, I'd raised Charlotte with the help of nannies and tutors and every advantage money could buy. She attended the most prestigious private school in the city, wore designer clothes, and had every toy and educational tool available. I wanted to give her everything I'd never had growing up in a working-class neighborhood, every opportunity to succeed and thrive. But somewhere in giving her everything, I'd inadvertently taught her that her worth came from what she had rather than who she was. Charlotte had become entitled, spoiled, dismissive of people she considered beneath her. She was rude to our staff, contemptuous of other children who weren't as privileged, and increasingly difficult to manage. Her teachers reported that she refused to work with students she deemed not smart enough, and that she frequently made other children cry with her cutting remarks. One crisp Tuesday afternoon, the tension reached a breaking point. I had picked Charlotte up early from school because she had been sent to the principal's office for mocking a classmate's scuffed shoes. As we sat in the back of my chauffeured Bentley, the silence was suffocating. I looked at my daughter, her arms crossed tightly over her cashmere sweater, her jaw set in a stubborn pout. I realized with a pang of genuine fear that I was losing her to the very wealth I had worked so hard to accumulate. I decided we needed air. I told the driver to pull over near Central Park. I thought a walk might soften her, but as we stepped onto the sidewalk, Charlotte immediately began complaining about the smell of the public and the commoners crowding the walkways. My heart sank. I had created a monster in a designer dress. As we walked near the edge of the park, Charlotte stopped abruptly. She pointed toward a stone bench where a young girl, perhaps a year or two older than Charlotte, sat huddled. The girl wore a jacket that was 3 sizes too big, frayed at the cuffs, and her hair was a messy tangle of chestnut curls. In her lap was a battered, dirt-stained notebook and a stubby pencil. "Look at her, Daddy," Charlotte sneered, loud enough for the girl to hear. "She looks like a human trash bag. Why doesn't she just go away? She's ruining the view." I felt a wave of shame wash over me. I went to rebuke Charlotte, but before I could speak, something stopped me. The homeless girl didn't look up in anger. She didn't cry. Instead, she kept scribbling intently in her notebook, her lips moving silently as if she were reciting a mantra. Curiosity, or perhaps a desperate need to show Charlotte a world outside her bubble, led me to lead my daughter closer. Charlotte resisted, pulling at my hand, but I insisted. As we approached, I saw what the girl was doing. She wasn't drawing doodles or begging for money. She was solving complex long division problems on the margins of an old newspaper she had found. Her notebook was actually a collection of discarded flyers and scraps of paper stapled together. When she finally looked up, her eyes weren't filled with the bitterness I expected. They were bright, piercing, and incredibly calm. "You're carrying your remainder wrong," Charlotte said suddenly, her voice dripping with condescension as she glanced at the girl's work. "Even I knew how to do that when I was 5. The girl, whose name I later learned was Maya, didn't flinch. She looked at the problem, then back at Charlotte. "You're right," Maya said softly. "I get stuck on the 8s sometimes. My mom says the numbers are like people, some are just harder to get to know than others. Would you show me how you do it?" Charlotte was stunned. She was prepared for a fight, for tears, or for a plea for money. She wasn't prepared for an invitation to lead. For the first time in her life, someone had treated her not as a rich girl, to be envied or resented, but as someone who had knowledge to share. Charlotte hesitated, looking at her clean white gloves and then at the girl's grimy seat. To my utter amazement, Charlotte sat down. For the next hour, I stood back and watched a miracle unfold. Charlotte, the girl who refused to work with inferior classmates, was hunched over a pile of trash paper, patiently explaining mathematical concepts to Maya. But as the minutes ticked by, the roles began to shift. Maya began asking questions that went beyond the math. "Why do you look so sad when you have such pretty shoes?" Maya asked. Charlotte stopped talking. She looked down at her $400 loafers and then at Maya's feet, which were wrapped in thick socks and plastic bags inside oversized boots. "I'm not sad," Charlotte lied, though her voice wavered. Maya smiled, a sad, knowing smile that belonged on someone 50 years older. My mom says wealth is like a backpack. If you fill it with only heavy gold, you'll never be able to climb the mountain. You have to pack light things, like kindness, so you can go higher. I watched as Charlotte's posture changed. The rigidity left her shoulders. She began to ask Maya about her life. She learned that Maya lived in a shelter 3 miles away, that she spent her days in the park because she couldn't afford the bus fare to the library, and that she was teaching herself from discarded textbooks she found in recycling bins because she wanted to be a doctor. If I'm a doctor, Maya said, no one will have to sleep in the cold because their heart hurts. Charlotte was silent for a long time. Then, she did something I had never seen her do. She took off her expensive cashmere scarf and wrapped it around Maya's neck. It matches your eyes, Charlotte whispered. There were no cameras, no social media to post it to, no praise from me. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated human connection. The stun came when Maya's mother returned from a nearby soup kitchen. She was a frail woman, exhausted but carrying herself with a quiet dignity that matched her daughter's. When she saw me, she didn't ask for a handout. She thanked me for letting my daughter play with hers. I realized then that while I had been giving Charlotte everything, I had been starving her of the one thing Maya had in abundance, a sense of purpose and a connection to the human struggle. That evening, Charlotte didn't ask for a new toy or complain about dinner. She asked if we could buy Maya a real desk and some books. What followed changed our lives. I didn't just write a check and walk away. I followed Maya's lead. I used my resources to create a foundation that didn't just build shelters, but built learning hubs in impoverished neighborhoods, places where children like Maya could access the tools they needed to change their own destinies. Maya became the first recipient of a full scholarship we established. But the real transformation was in Charlotte. She spent her weekends volunteering, not because I forced her, but because she had found a friend who taught her that a person's value is measured by what they give, not what they possess. Today, Charlotte is a human rights lawyer, and Maya is indeed a doctor, working in the very clinics they helped build together. I look back at that day in the park and realize that as a billionaire, I thought I was the one with the power to change lives. I was wrong. It was a girl with nothing who saved my daughter's soul. True wealth isn't found in a bank account, it's found in the moment you realize that every person you meet is a teacher, and every kindness you show is a brick in the bridge to a better world. Never look down on someone unless you are reaching down to help them up, for you might just find they are the ones holding the key to your own happiness.